Hagler. He is no stranger to the role of a contender who nobody wanted. But today, Marvin stands alone. He is the only undisputed champion in the world. For 7 long years, Marvin dreamt of stepping into the ring with a middleweight champion. Those days are over. Today, Marvelous Marvin is the most feared middleweight in the world. He is the possessor of the WBA and WBC crowns and the most powerful punching combinations in boxing. But now a new role. Marvin steps into the ring with his title on the line. Tonight, the first title defense of Marvelous Marvin Hagler. Live from the Boston Garden in Boston, Massachusetts, HBO Sports presents World Championship Boxing. First, the scheduled 6-round welterweight bout between up-and-coming Davey Moore and Felix Nance. And then the main event, the scheduled 15-round middleweight championship bout between the undisputed WBA, WBC middleweight champion of the world, Marvelous Marvin Hagler, and the #1 ranked WBA, WBC contender, Fulgencio Obelmejias. Hello, everybody. I'm Barry Tompkins, and it is a pleasure to share these microphones with the welterweight champion of the world, Sugar Ray Leonard, and also our expert analyst, Larry Merchant. Sugar Ray, let me ask you, first of all, it has been 19 years since there's been a championship fight here at Boston Garden. Place literally sold out all the way up to the rafters up there. You have been in this kind of situation before. There's a real electricity about a fight like this.
Barry, you can feel the intensity of the fight. I mean, the crowd, you can pretty much put yourself in his place. And the way Marvin has conditioned himself for this particular fight, you might see a dynamite fight.
Everybody talks about how hard Marvin Hagler works, that he really puts as much time into training as he does in the ring during the actual fight itself. What's going through his mind at this juncture now? We're still probably a half hour, 45 minutes away from that fight. What are you thinking about in the locker room at this point?
At this stage now, it's been such a long road for Marvin to, let's say, capture the middleweight crown, and he wants to retain that. And after we saw a few clips on the tube was that who wants to fight a guy like that? He's awesome, and he's going to prove himself tonight again.
Well, we've got a lot to tell you about both Marvin Hagler and the challenger, Fulgencio Obelmejias. But before we get to that, we have a 6-round fight between Davey Moore and Felix Nance. And with us, Larry Merchant, who has had an opportunity to be around Davey Moore. Larry, a couple of words about Davey Moore. Relax as time goes on. As we mentioned, still down the road, the middleweight championship fight between Marvin Hagler and this is Hagler's dressing room here, and you can see police out in front. I guess the champion just wants to be alone at this juncture and just get his thoughts together all by himself.
Concentration, it makes your performance. But I prefer to have that guard in the ring with me.
That's right. Man's about 85 years old. I don't think he can handle it. I think I can handle it. I'm a devout coward.
One sort of baptism under fire as a professional.
Here's a look inside Fulgencio Obelmejias. He looks rather calm right now, but you have to know there's a little bit of apprehension going on in his mind.
Oh, there has to be. He's a hero at home, and he knows fully well if he wins this fight, he could run for president.
If confidence is any kind of a factor in the man's winning a fight, he had said long before he ever even signed a contract to fight Marvin Hagler that if I ever get a Hagler in the ring, Venezuela is going to have a new champion.
Well, he looks lean.
Pretty good size, 6'1". We've got a lot to tell you about this man. Fulgencio Obel is what he has come to be called here in the United States. Fulgencio Obelmejias, unquestionably quite a mouthful. I haven't kicked it yet today, but I'm working on it.
You know, all of South America is watching for this fight. They had an outstanding middleweight champion for many years, and Carlos Monzon didn't lose a fight for about 12 years. And maybe they think that they have another successor to Monzon here.
We come to the 4th round. Fighting some guy you really don't know anything about. I always would have to think that there's got to be just that little man in the back of your head that says, what if?
That's true. Every time you step in the ring, you say, what if that punch lands? But Dave Moore looked quite impressive.
Well, we await the start now of the Marvin Hagler, Fulgencio Obelmejias. I want to make that point clear again. We will call him Fulgencio Obel. There is no question about that. Obelmejias not going to last. He is the guy that comes into the fight. He has won 30 straight fights. He's won 28 of them by knockout. On the other side, you got Marvin Hagler. Everybody here in Boston knows Marvin Hagler. Everybody in the United
lands. But Dave Moore looked quite impressive.
Well, we await the start now of the Marvin Hagler, Fulgencio Obelmejias. I want to make that point clear again. We will call him Fulgencio Obel. There is no question about that. Obelmejias not going to last. He is the guy that comes into the fight. He has won 30 straight fights. He's won 28 of them by knockout. On the other side, you got Marvin Hagler. Everybody here in Boston knows Marvin Hagler. Everybody in the United States is aware of what he is all about. And he's fighting a guy that's really an unknown quantity. And I would think, as the champion, that has got to be a very difficult task. You'd rather fight somebody who you know something about.
Really, that's true. I mean, when I step into the ring, and I'm quite sure Marvin feels the same way. He comes in as his champion, and he's especially fighting at home. He's fighting what a lot of the boxing critics would say a nobody, because no one has seen him on TV. But I'm quite sure Marvin's thinking in the back of his mind, could this guy do it?
Almost one of those darned if you do and darned if you don't kind of situations. If you win, people say, well, you fought a hamburger. And if you lose, people say, well, you lost to a hamburger.
That's true.
How good are you? We got a lot to tell you about Marvin Hagler. But Marvin Hagler himself is really only one in a long series of great middleweights. Let's go back now and visit with some of the former champions in this division. In 1940, the middleweight crown belonged to Tony Zale. His reign began the glamour years of the division. Then in 1947, he lost his title to the flamboyant Rocky Graziano. Tony Zale won it back 1 year later. The Frenchman Marcel Cerdan put an end to Tony's career. Then along came the controversial Raging Bull. Jake LaMotta was a terror in and out of the ring. His life became the ideal Hollywood script. But perhaps none wore the crown like Sugar Ray Robinson. Pound for pound, the greatest fighter in history. But tonight we present the newest champion, Marvin Hagler, in his first title defense against Fulgencio Obelmejias. Live from Boston Garden in Boston, Massachusetts, it's the main event. A World Middleweight Championship fight between Marvin Hagler and the #1 contender, Fulgencio Obelmejias. Sugar Ray Leonard, let's talk a little bit about Marvin Hagler. He's a guy that comes into this fight. People for years have been saying this is the best middleweight around. He didn't get his chance. I would think that has really got to be very, very frustrating, and he's got to be just a little bit angry at this point.
I think Marvin Hagler holds a bit of bitterness about him, because we've seen some of the earlier clips of Marvin Hagler's fights. And as awesome as he is, there are very few middleweights that would like to tangle with him. And now he's the champion, and he's going to the ring with so much confidence and retain his title. This guy is really aiming to show the people that he is the best middleweight around.
Did you go through the same thing when you were up and coming? Were people just trying to duck you because everybody knows how good Sugar Ray Leonard is?
No, they didn't want to duck me. Everyone wanted to fight me, especially now. I got middleweights want to fight me, light heavies. Probably Larry Holmes want to fight me soon enough. Because once you reach a certain status, as far as exposure, everyone wants to get to you because they know you're the big bucks.
Whatever way you look at it, Marvin Hagler really is quite a story. And we had an opportunity to catch up with Marvin Hagler at his training camp just down the road in Provincetown, Massachusetts, earlier this week. This is Cape Cod, a summer resort in the dead of winter. Even today, as Marvin Hagler prepares for his first title defense, he remembers his frustrating past.
Nobody wanted me, and I couldn't understand why, you know. Managing trainers, you told me, well, Marvin, you know, the way that you are, nobody wants to fight you. You're left-handed, you know, because you're knocking everybody out. None of these contenders want to take the opportunity.
Joe Frazier, I think he paraphrased it beautifully when he says, down in Philadelphia, we were fighting one of his boys. It happened to be Willie Monroe, one of his sparring partners right now. He's in trouble with you, Marvin. He says, you get 3 strikes against you. He says, you're black, you're a southpaw. He says, you can fight.
For 5 long years, Marvin fought anyone gutsy enough to climb through the ropes. In this same Boston Garden on November 11th, 1978, the unfortunate opponent was Willie Warren. After his 43rd win and his 33rd knockout, Marvin pleaded for his shot with then middleweight champion Hugo Coro.
Come on, Hugo Coro! I'm ready, Hugo Coro!
But Hugo Coro never did give Marvin his shot. Instead, he had to face the stark realities of the game of boxing.
There was a big thing about politics, I guess, that was involved in boxing, who you know or whatever, and you know, because it wasn't your status and your record, because I had all that. And the fight there with Doug Demons, it was good. I think that was maybe my 30th fight, believe it or not, before I got on national television. And Doug Dimmons had been in there with Sugar Ray Seals and a lot of other good fighters, too. So it was my first real test, in other words.
But then the big chance, the one that would catapult him to the title, but it didn't. The result was a controversial 15-round draw, and Vito Antuofermo was still champion.
Vito, after the fight, dropped his head, knowing that he had lost. I came out of the ring, and I had seen Joe Louis. And Joe Louis had grabbed me by the hand, and he says, hey, he says, look, kid, he says, I think you won the fight. He says, don't get discouraged. And I said, no, I'm not going to get discouraged. I said, I'm going right back into the gym. I'm going back to school.
3 months later, Marvin went back to the classroom, giving Algerian Lucy Pamani, the number 6 ranked WBC contender and the winner of 20 straight fights, a lesson in the art of the knockout.
We just kept the ball rolling. I fought this Lucy Pamani, which was an unbeaten fighter. Had a good breakout, just like this Obel that we were getting ready to fight, and I knocked him out in the second round.
Marvin had to wait for Alan Minter to dethrone Antuofermo while he decisioned to tough Marco Serraldo himself. In time, he'd get his second shot at the title.
Sure, we're discouraged. Marvin was discouraged, but he fought harder. This is what I'm trying to say from the old school. If you knock me down, I'll get up again. But I think you realize what went on when we went to London. Nothing was going for us. We knew this here. I said, Marvin, he said, you can't leave it up to the judges. He said, this is my judge and jury, right here. And you saw him when the bell sounded. He was ferocious. He was awesome.
Finally, amidst the shower of bottles and debris, Marvin was crowned a middleweight champion of the world.
I learned from that Antuofermo fight what I had to do, and that was had to hurt this man really bad. Had to make sure that he couldn't continue this fight in order for me to become what I wanted, to make my dream come true, and that was to become the middleweight champion of the world.
So he won the championship, and then that hectic hustle afterwards wasn't nice to look at, but he brought it.
These are beautiful. It's only made for me. That's the way I like it. And I tell you, Obel's gonna be in trouble if he tries to take these here from me come January 17th.
You know, I think Marvin Hagler probably said it best, Ray, when we asked him why he just wasn't getting a shot at the title earlier. He said, I guess I'm just too good for my own good. Well, we've talked about Marvin Hagler. We're going to talk more about Marvin Hagler. What about his opponent, Fulgencio Obelmejias? Larry Merchant, have you had an opportunity to see him, and what do you know about him?
I don't know a whole lot about him, except that I'm going to call him by his Americanized handle, Fully Obel. I know this about him, too. He and Marvin Hagler have both knocked out somebody named Lamont Lovelady. So help me. Sounds like a porn star. The trouble is, all 30 of his opponents have been names like Lamont Lovelady. Give him this. They haven't beaten him. He's beaten them. But questions do arise. How did he vault from obscurity into being the #1 contender of both boxing bodies in a very short time? Can he take a punch in this class of competition? Does he have the stamina for 15 rounds? We have the makings of a kind of a sting here. Either the public is going to get stung or Marvin Hagler is going to get stung. We have some film of Fully Obel we'd like to show you. He is definitely not a raging bull, but he is a toreador with a very quick and very strong left and right hand. Let's take a look.
Fulgencio Obelmejias is currently the #1 ranked contender for Marvin Hagler's middleweight crown. He is 28 years old, a native of Venezuela with 30 straight wins. On December 17, 1979, he took on Sugar Ray Phillips in Caracas. Early in round 2, Fully Obel, as he has been dubbed here in the States, demonstrated the knockout style, which has earned him the nickname, The Animal. Phillips would only go 4 rounds on this particular night. He had lasted 7 rounds 2 years earlier with Marvin Hagler. But this fight was in Obel's home. He has become a national hero in Venezuela, with 28 knockouts to his credit. Constantly applying pressure, he attacks his opponents with both hands, but clearly his best weapon is a devastating left hook. 1 year later, on October 31st, 1980, Obelmejias found himself in the ring in Rome, Italy. His opponent, another American, Leroy Green Jr. The outcome, once again, a knockout. Early in round 1, the South American champion was the aggressor, and it was quickly apparent that his 29th straight victory was only a question of time. This ball would only go 3 rounds. As Green vainly hung on, Obelmejias took another step toward the title. He is a Venezuelan with a dream. He wants to bring the middleweight championship home to his country, home to his people. Fulgencio Obelmejias has journeyed here with a single purpose. He wants Marvin Hagler's crown. Barry Tompkins with Sugar Ray Leonard and Larry Merchant. We talked about the fact that this crowd was stone quiet. Totally different story now.
Well, it looks like there are a few hundred of his countrymen here, and they're sounding like they've filled the place themselves. But I hear the faint echoes in the background of "We Want Marvin," and that sounds like him coming.
Marvin Hagler coming into the ring now. He, of course, very popular amongst the folks in Boston here. It was a promoter here in Boston, Rip Valenti, who really got him into the limelight, got him his first big matches, and he has been ever since very popular here in the city of Boston. Born in Newark, New Jersey, but fights out of Brockton, Massachusetts. Went up there as a teenager, and he has gone on to become the middleweight champion of the world. He's a big hitter, and he's in against the guy who, at least apparently, is also a big hitter.
Oh, yes. Obels looks big, very lean, and he packs a good right hand, which is the best shot that he does southpaw with.
Let's take a look at the tail of the tape and see how it adds up. It's pretty much even, as you can see. Hagler and Obelmejias, both 28 years old. Obelmejias with a very definite height advantage, although he does not have a reach advantage. So Hagler with the longer arms of the two. You saw the way it went, and we are just about set to get underway here. Marvelous Marvin Hagler, the middleweight champion of the world, against the challenger, Fulgencio Obelmejias. The crowd is on its feet here at the Boston Gardens, and I mean to tell you, it is packed to the rafters here. Getting the introduction of some former champions here in the world, former world champions here.
I'm not sure who that was. I didn't hear the name, but it may be Paul Pender, who fought the last championship here 19 years ago. DeMarco is a popular figure here. He just had the championship for one fight, lost it to Carmen Basilio.
Massachusetts, one-time leading contender in the middleweight class, and New England middleweight champion, and also an upcoming and popular legislature, Joe DiNucci.
Well, Marvin Hagler and Fulgencio Obelmejias, while some of the introductions still go on in the ring, have had some common opponents. The ever-popular Lamont Lovelady. Each KO'd Lovelady. Obelmejias in 3 rounds down in Caracas. Hagler handled him in 7 rounds. A fellow by the name of Thomas was knocked out by both men. Obelmejias in the 5th round. Hagler in the 3rd round. Sugar Ray Phillips. Isn't everybody named Ray Sugar Ray these days? Sugar Ray Phillips KO'd by both men also. Hagler took 7 rounds to handle him. Obelmejias took 4 rounds. And another fellow by the name of Warren also knocked out by both fighters. Obelmejias took 8 rounds to handle him. And Hagler 7. But I think, Ray, you made an interesting point in that Obelmejias got a lot of those guys really when they were past their prime in boxing.
Yes, he's had a lot of knockouts, but these guys were old.
Ray Leonard here right in the middle of a little talk that he was giving us, got introduced by the public address announcer and takes his bows as the welterweight champion of the world as you look at Marvin Hagler.
I want to mention that we saw DeMarco here in the ring. When he fought Basilio here over 20 years ago, the gate was about $175,000. Tonight the gate is over $500,000, and that breaks the record by about 3 times. I don't know how it factors in there with inflation, but it is an indication that Marvin Hagler has, as a champion anyway, become an attraction here. This is the first fight ever with a $100 ringside seat here in Boston.
You know, it is an interesting thing, though. We talk about the big salaries and the big gates and all that kind of thing now. Until February of 1979, the biggest payday that Marvin Hagler ever had was $15,000. And that, you know, by boxing standards, not a whole lot of money, and it wasn't that long ago.
Between the television rights fee and the live gate, which will be somewhere around $900,000 and possibly up to $1 million, Hagler will wind up with between $400,000 and $500,000. The challenger, as far as we know, is getting $25,000, but it's conceivable he has a piece of the Venezuelan television rights, and I'm told that the Venezuelan television rights are more valuable than any other fight rights in South America.
He, in fact, Ray, has done some color commentary on boxing in his native Venezuela, so see that, just watch out.
Well, he covered Hagler's fight against Minter.
That's exactly right. He is also extremely popular in Italy, and Italian television is here ringside as well as Venezuelan television. He had a couple of fights in Rome, and in fact, he had a couple of very impressive victories in Rome, so he has really captured the fancy of the Italian boxing fans, too, and they're really good fans. Still continuing with the introduction of some of the judges, local celebrities, and that kind of thing in the ring. More people in the ring right now than there are outside the ring, I think. And we are now just about set for the national anthems of both Venezuela and, of course, the United States. Let's listen.
Gritaba el Señor, el pobre en su choza libertad pidió, y a este santo nombre, templo de pavor, el vil egoísmo que otra vez triunfó. Y a este santo nombre, y a este santo nombre, tembló de pavor el vil egoísmo que otra vez triunfó. El vil egoísmo que otra vez triunfó. Gloria al bravo pueblo que el yugo lanzó, la ley respetando la virtud y honor. Gloria al bravo pueblo que el yugo lanzó, la ley respetando la virtud y honor. And now, the national anthem by Freddie Penolia. Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight of the ramparts we watched were so gallant.
attraction of the evening. 15 rounds for the middleweight championship of the world. Here at the Boston Garden, Macon, Massachusetts. Promoters, top-ranked Bob Arum and Rip Valenti. Officials working are judges from Montreal, Canada, Gay Jutras. From England, Mike Jacobs. Your referee from Mexico, Octavia Meda. In the red corner, wearing black with the white stripes and weighing 159.5 pounds, the #1 WBC and WBA undefeated middleweight contender from Venezuela, Fulgencio Obelmejias. And in the blue corner, wearing maroon trunks, weighing 159.5 pounds, from Brockton, Massachusetts, the middleweight champion of the world, Marvin Hagler.
Anticipation is now over. It is time to get to it. Marvin Hagler, clearly the crowd favorite here, although Fulgencio Obelmejias really has an awful lot of support here. A large contingent from Venezuela. The scoring, the 10-point must system. A fighter cannot lose a round any worse than 10-7. 3 knockdown rule has been waived. Round 1 just underway here. Obelmejias in the dark trunks with the red stripes. The champion Marvin Hagler in the red trunks. Hagler fighting an unknown quantity here in Fully Obel. Obel has been very, very calm and seemingly very, very relaxed throughout the pre-fight activities. He has 30 victories in a row. 28 of them have come by knockdown. The question, or a knockout rather, the question, of course, who has he fought? He has not fought anyone the likes of Marvin Hagler. A little bit cautious here early on, just underway, first round middleweight championship of the world at stake, both the WBA and the WBC. First minute of the first round has been a testing ground. Right hand by Obelmejias scores. Hagler yet to really unleash.
As I see it now, Barrett, both fighters carry potent punches with them. And I believe whichever fighter begins to land his punches, clean punches, will pretty much be the dominant one.
Obel, pretty much of a straight-up fighter. That is not the kind of fighter that has given Marvin Hagler trouble. Vito Antuofermo gave him a lot of trouble, but he's the kind of guy that just keeps boring in at you. Obel had great confidence coming into this fight. Although there was a lot of criticism in the Boston papers that since he came up to Boston from Venezuela, he had not been working out very hard. But I also remember that about Ingemar Johansson in his first fight with Floyd Patterson. Under a minute to go in the first round. Tan lead misses by Hagler. Hagler will switch hands. He's a natural left-hander, but he will switch hands, come around to the right side occasionally. Did that a lot against Antuofermo.
Right now they're sizing each other and trying to get the geometry and quickness between them, see how far apart they have to stay to be effective. by the end of this round, they'll pretty well have each other sized up in terms of quickness and reach.
Interesting that even though Obel is 4 inches taller than Marvin Hagler, the reach of the two is exactly the same, 75 inches. End of round 1. Fairly even round. Both fighters a little bit cautious after the first 3 minutes of the fight. Obelmejias, incidentally, cheering on his fans, and he does have plenty of support as you look into the corner of Marvin Hagler.
I thought that Obel was a little bit more the aggressor in that fight. He was more willing to find out about Hagler more than Hagler was to find out about him. He threw more punches. He was a more positive force. He certainly acts like a man who's won all of his fights and doesn't have any understanding of what it is to lose. He's a very positive fighter.
I feel that Hagler's waiting to see what Obel has to offer. And I'm quite sure as the rounds go by, you're going to see a different story in Marvin Hagler.
And also there's the factor of stamina. Because so many of his fights have been by knockouts, he's fought very few fights beyond 6 or 7 rounds, and so Hagler is definitely not in any rush.
Well, the talk, of course, is that Obel has fought most of his fights in Caracas, which is true, but he also went all the way to Rome and had a couple of very impressive victories, so he's not unused to fighting in his homeland. Second round, just underway. Marvin Hagler on the right in the red trunks. Left hand misses. Hagler now pressing the attack just a little bit more to Obelmejias. Obel with a right hand that came up a little bit short. Wild left hand that time by Obel, and the right hand by Hagler sticks him up on the chin. Not much damage done at all in that exchange. Right hand again, wild right hand by Obel misses. Hagler comes back to the right and then a left that gets Obel up top of the head. Pace is picked up considerably here in the second round as Hagler hangs on.
Another thing that's impressive about the Venezuelan is he doesn't seem to be bothered at all by the southpaw.
No, he seems to be pretty composed, and as a matter of fact, Obel has a pretty good straight, and then sometimes it comes as a loop, the right hand that he has, and it's very powerful.
Obel not at all odd, and if there's anything you could say, you got to say that. He has been calm from the moment he came into the ring. At the end of the first round, he was exhorting his fans to cheer, and they have. And even though this is Marvin Hagler's backyard, Obel has really got his share of support here in Boston. Wild left hand by Hagler was over the head of Obel.
That was a beautiful right hand by Obel to Hagler's chin.
Right between the guards, sweeping left cross. Misses. Hagler with the right hand there to the side of the head of Obel. And another combination this time has Obel slowed up just a little bit. But Obel stays right in there, stays pretty close to Hagler as a matter of fact. Under a minute to go now here in the second round. Marvin Hagler, the champion. Fulgencio Obelmejias. Fully Obel in the dark trunks on the left of your screen. Two quick right hands to the side of the cheek. Offered up by Marvin Hagler, and the two clinch. Hagler throws a good variety of punches. Came with an uppercut that time. There's a right hand that does not do a lot of damage. That other right hand short by Obel. Hagler comes back with two quick jabs and catch Obel up on the cheek. And Obel returns with a jab to the cheek of Marvin Hagler. Left hand did score that time for Hagler, but Obel not damaged at all so far here in the second round. Combination that time by Obel. Hagler tries to counter with a left as we reach the end of the second round. Pretty good pace that time, and both fighters really seemingly unafraid of the other.
Right at the end of that round, Ray, Hagler nailed him with a couple of quick punches to the jaw, which was the first time he had hit him, I thought, in the face. What's the problem with reaching at a very tall fellow? Let's have a look at this now.
Well, as we see it now, Obel, who just missed with the left hook, he's pretty confident. I mean, he's bringing the current fight to Hagler. In fact, Hagler seems to be buying time and trying to wait for an opportunity to land a big blow. And there, Obel landed with a good right hand. And both of these fighters are exchanging dynamite punches here.
Ray, I remember you telling me when we did some fights on HBO back in Colorado that it is easier to fight as the champion than it is to fight as the challenger, and that now is the role that Marvin Hagler has.
That is. As a champion, you know fully well that a challenger has to take the belt from you decisively.
And it's obvious that Fulgencio Obel really realizes that. A left hand to the jaw of Fulgencio Obel forces him back to the ropes. And that brings the crowd here at Boston Garden to its feet. Best punch of the fight that time by Marvin Hagler.
Of course, one of the big questions was whether Obel could take a punch from a fighter in this class of competition.
Or how long he could take it. How many rounds.
To keep that left hand in the face of Marvin Hagler, at least with some consistency, and that has kept Hagler away from really being able to throw any kind of combinations at him.
Larry, to answer your question about throwing wide shots, it takes the power away from your punches. The shorter punches are far more effective, like Joe Louis with that 6-inch punch.
Obel again wild with the left hand, takes a right hand to the nose, and Hagler comes back with a combination and misses. Clicking right jabs by Hagler. Looking for the score. Again with a quick combination, but none of them really doing any serious damage at all. In fact, only one of the 3 punches landing. Crowd starts to chant Marvin, Marvin. Hometown favorite here, Marvin Hagler. Under a minute to go, round 3. Even fight so far. Fulgencio Obel on the right, Marvin Hagler, the middleweight champion, on the left. Hagler with a pretty effective right-hand jab right now.
They haven't had a champion to cheer for here in 19 years since Paul Pender.
And that, of course, was the last championship bout held here at the Boston Gardens. Paul Pender beating Terry Downs. Pender is on hand for this one tonight. Combination by Obel, both rather wild punches, and Obel ducks away from the right hand offered up by Marvin Hagler. 15 seconds to go here in round 3, middleweight championship. And we come to the end of the 3rd round. I think one observation that you might have to have here is just the fact that you talk about the fact is Fulgencio Obelmejias a qualified challenger, and so far, at least through the first 3 rounds, you have to say he's really been qualified to be in a ring in this.
Yeah, all the doubts about him, the fears, I should really say, that he might come in here and just be a complete bust and more or less evaporated. Right from the get-go, right from the first bell, he's shown that he's just come in here to make a fight, no awe of the champion, and he's very much in the fight. I don't think that Hagler has really solved him yet.
Well, here's another program note from HBO Sports, and it involves yours truly and the man on my right, Larry Merchant. We're going to be on hand to bring you the year in review, 1980 in review, and that's where we have a chance to recapture the biggest and the most important stories of the year 1980 in sports. So please join Larry Merchant and myself. It all happens right here on HBO Monday, February 2nd, 7:30, 6:30 Central. Round 4 upcoming now. Fulgencio Obel on the right, Marvin Hagler on the left. Time by Obel, did connect, but Hagler with a quick right hand over that short right.
Marvin seems to be bothered a bit by Obel's height and his consistency because he is a busy fighter.
left hand that misses rather poorly, as a matter of fact. By the same token, Hagler has had that right hand pretty much in Obel's face most of the fight. He's kind of kept Obel off stride a little bit. Obel really hasn't had a chance to really get set and throw any kind of punches. He's been throwing a lot of windmill, both lefts and rights. Again, another good, strong right-hand snapping jab by Marvin Hagler, the champion. And another one up on the forehead. Fully Obel. Obel has been most effective when he's been able to get in close. There's a right hand that does catch Hagler up on the eyebrow, and Hagler comes right back with the right hand in the face of Obel.
I noticed a couple of times Obel would stand there and let Marvin Hagler throw punches. And what I believe he's trying to do is gain leverage, because he's trying to throw a right hand.
Ray, he looks to me like he's been loading up and looking to throw that right hand and catch Hagler on the way in.
Two good rights that time by Hagler, and that staggers Obel for just a moment. And another combination has Obel a little bit wobbly right now. Obel up against the ropes here as we are just over halfway through the fourth round. Another good right hand on the cheek of Fully Obel, and a left hand under the cheek. And another left gets into the nose, and Marvin Hagler now is really taking the fight to the challenge of Fully Obel. And Obel seems a little bit groggy and holding on somewhat. Obel has been hurt, there's no question about it. Another right hand sends it back into the ropes, and another right hand has Obel's legs wobbly once again. Obel tries to fight back with a right, but Hagler comes right back with a right and a left and another left and a right uppercut to the jaw. Obel just trying to weather the storm, does get a right hand in, but it has no sting on it. Hagler right back at him with a left to the jaw and a right to the head. And another left to the cheek by Hagler. Once again, Obel up against the ropes. The champion, Marvin Hagler, right on top of him. 20 seconds to go here in the fourth round. This round has been all the champion. Again, Hagler is pounding away at Obel. Obel with a right hand, but seems to have lost some zip. Another combination by Hagler against the ropes, right over all microphones here. And again, Hagler with a right and a left and another right. 2 seconds remaining in the round, and we have come to the end of round 4, a round that was clearly Marvin Hagler.
Well, we also answered another question, and that was whether Obel could take a punch. He certainly stood up to a fierce barrage there, so we know he doesn't have a glass jaw. Now we have to see if he's able to come back from that sort of adversity, whether he has the kind of conditioning necessary to come back from that kind of barrage. Let's take a look at that action again. He finally got Obel measured for his head, 2 right hands right there. And he has him backing up.
Marvin's really putting his punches together. Here he throws a barrage of punches. And as you said earlier, Obel proves he can take a punch, and he doesn't have a glass jaw.
So we come to the 5th round.
This could be a telltale round to see if Obel is going to come back, put some hurt on Hagler, and turn this around.
And Obel backpedaling right now, still seemingly just a little bit wobbly from that barrage in the 4th round by Hagler. Hagler at him right against the ropes. Obel spins away, gets him back in the middle of the ring now. Fully Obel, the challenger, once more backpedaling and throwing punches now. Very much of an off-balance position. Hanging on just a little bit. Looks a little bit weary and still probably a little bit hurt. Hagler stalking him. Right hand lead again by Hagler. Hagler the southpaw, but he will switch hands, as we mentioned.
You notice Obel is moving away. He's not as aggressive as he was. And here he's trying to get his head back together.
Another flicking jab by Hagler, and another one pushes Obel into the ropes once more, right over on microphone. Right hand spins it away, and a left hand turns him back into the ropes again. Obel fights back, gets a couple of right hands in, and this time a left hand counter punch by Hagler sets Obel back on his heels again. Obel has been most effective when he is in close, but he's had a lot of trouble getting in close.
I notice Obel's mouth is open, and that is a sign of fatigue. He's been knocking out so many fighters. He's never really been the distance, so this could be a factor in this fight here. And I think Marvin Hagler, he's aware of that.
As we mentioned here in the Boston papers recently, there's been a lot of criticism about Fully Obel. One of the quotes I read was, he says he runs 3 or 4 miles a day. As if it is a very disbelieving writer who wrote it.
Well, there's a sign of desperation about Obel because he's just winging punches. He's not really conscious of where his punches are landing, and as we see it now, Hagler's very, very aggressive.
Obel really has no legs left right now, and it's just a question of time. Left hand right to the nose of Fully Obel, still on his feet, though. Obel very rubber-legged in the center of the ring, backs up on the ropes now. Hagler pounds him with the right hand to the cheek, and another left and another right to the head. And an uppercut catches Obel right under the chin, probably lifts him off the ground. Obel just about a helpless fighter right now, leaning in on Hagler. Hagler back with another left to the face and another left to the face. Combination misses, but a right hand stuns Obel again, and another right to the nose of Fully Obel, and a left cross and a right cross to the face of Obel. Obel a very weary and a very hurt fighter right now. We're in the 5th round, 30 seconds to go. Obel stares blankly out at the crowd now, looking all a part of a beaten fighter. Hagler once more pounding Obel to the head. A left hand whips him around, and an uppercut, 2 more left hands to the head. Obel is showing he can take a shot, and he has taken Hagler's best, but he is a tired and he is a beaten fighter. 5 seconds to go here in round 5, and he will get through this one. Crowd on its feet as you look at Fully Obel, and Hagler is a man in control right now.
Well, Obel has also shown us that he's got some courage. Let's take a look at the end of that round to see Hagler start to pour it on, and Hagler looks like a raging bull right here. He knows he has his man hurt. He's coming on methodically, not wasting a lot of punches.
I think that's a very good point, Larry, about Marvin Hagler. He really does not waste too many punches. I would say probably connecting on about 65 or 70% of his punches.
Some other action. We can see now the mark of a champion. He took his time early on until he had Obel measured, a tall opponent, a dangerous opponent. Obel has given his best. It's just a question of whether it's enough and whether he has the conditioning to survive.
Round 6 now, Hagler right on Fully Obel right at the start of this round. Obel, even standing in the center of the ring, was doing so on unsteady legs. The fight has been all Marvin Hagler for the last 2 rounds. In the corner directly above us, good right uppercut to the jaw of Fully Obel, and Obel remains on his feet. Another right overhand and another uppercut, and Obel backs away again, hurt. A left hand, and Obel is down. Obel gets to his feet. He is wobbly. Referee Octavio Miran talking to him and asking him if he can go on. He says he can, and the 2 fighters are back at it again. Left hand right back by Marvin Hagler to the side of the face, and another one, and a right hand. Hagler not wasting any punches, connecting on just about every punch, measuring his man right now. Right above us again. Hagler is stalking, a right and a left to the face, an uppercut misses. Hagler now goes to the body, and Hagler with another right and a left to the head of Obel, and Obel backs away again, trying to punch with the right hand, but he has nothing left. Hagler now biding his time, looking for the good shot, stalking his man.
He still has confidence in that punch. He still hopes that he can somehow turn the fight by landing one of those big punches.
Obel back against the ropes now. He is a tired fighter. Hagler measuring him once more, a combination, although some of the sting, for the moment at least, has gone out of Marvin Hagler's punches too. Left hand misses by Hagler. Obel now back, at least trying to get to the middle of the ring. Very wobbly now. A left hand and a right to the cheek, and Obel is staggered once again. Another left and a right hand misses. Hagler seemingly 1 punch away from putting his man out. Obel gamely tries to fight back. Hagler is against the ropes now. And a left hand by Obel catches Hagler on the cheek but doesn't hurt him. Hagler right back to the offense now. 1 minute left here in round 6. Combination under the chin of Obel. And an uppercut catches Obel again. Some of the sting might have gone out of Hagler's punching here too.
He threw so many shots. He threw so many punches. I think at this point now, Hagler's a little arm weary. And Obel's just holding his own, but he's taking a tremendous amount of punishment.
Hagler's throwing those punches all the way from Provincetown, and it's a good thing he spent all that time there to get himself in this shape.
Well, Obel taking his best shots now, back up against the rope again. Referee Octavio Miran taking a close look at Fully Obel now. Obel on very wobbly legs, leaning on Marvin Hagler. Tries to fight out of him with the left hand. but they're really marshmallow punches now. Left hand by Hagler, pushes Obel against the ropes again. 2 quick rights to the nose, and Obel bounces off the ropes and ties Hagler up in the corner. Obel bleeding from the inside of the mouth now. Whistling right cross by Hagler that time, and a left hand up the side of the head. Uppercut, still Obel does not go down. Obel against the ropes. He has been down once. The bell sounds the end of round 6. It is a game challenger that we're looking at.
I'm curious to see whether or not Obel comes out for the next round, because he took so much, and Hagler showed that he was the champion.
The referee Octavio Menan took 2 very, very close looks at Fully Obel, once after the knockdown and another time on the ropes on the other side of the ring from our broadcast position. Looked at him very, very closely and decided the fight could go on. Obel just kind of sagged down into his corner, and you look at his handlers just trying to tend to their man. Hagler seemed to get, though, Larry, a little bit arm weary at the end of that round.
Yeah, I think he's probably a little surprised that Fully is still upright. And he did throw a lot of punches. I think we have to give the challenger credit. He's a legitimate challenger.
I completely
Whatever
agree
our
with you.
doubts were, and our doubts were very legitimate because we didn't know about his record, he's shown us that he has the real qualities of a fighter.
Really does, and there was a lot of question about the fact that he was the #1 ranked challenger. Everybody was talking about the fact that how can this man be the #1 challenger when in fact he hasn't really fought anybody. He's been a very game fighter, and he's in there against maybe the best middleweight in the world and maybe the best middleweight in a long time. Bleeding rather heavily now from the mouth. Obel against the ropes, and Hagler pounds at him unmercifully once more. Hagler is not missing punches. It is really amazing that Obel has just managed to stay on his feet as long as he has. He went down from a left hand. It has been the only knockdown of the fight. For 3 rounds now, the fight has belonged to Marvin Hagler, the champion.
This guy's incredible. Obel he's truly a determined fighter.
Had something in that left hand, too, and it just grazed Marvin Hagler's nose that time.
Look at this, he's coming on.
Obel has Hagler against the ropes now. Now Hagler gets out of there and figures enough of this nonsense, sticks a right hand and then a left to Obel's face.
Obel may be tired, but he still packs a punch. I mean, he's winging those punches, and he's waiting to get an opportunity to throw a shot on Hagler. And Hagler's a little arm weary from throwing so many punches.
Obel bleeding from the mouth. Does seem to be bothering him. He definitely is a tired fighter, but I'm not too sure but that Marvin Hagler is a little bit tired too. Right hand, Obel comes back with a right hand of his own. Hagler with a right hand again, left hand right to the nose, backs Obel up, whistling right to the side of the head, and a left uppercut, another left hand. And now Marvin Hagler is cut a little bit on the lip, although that doesn't seem to be anything that is too serious. Right overhand that time, from the side of the face of Obel, and another right hand. And Obel remains on his feet, fights back, puts Hagler against the ropes. Left hand to the body by Obel.
Hagler stopped there for a second to look at him and said, hey, what's going on here? This wasn't in the script.
What are you doing here? 1 minute remains here in the 7th round. Hagler does seem to be just a little bit frustrated about the fact that he could not put his man away. He's not doing anything wrong. Another left hook right to the mouth.
Well, Hagler's doing everything right. It's just that Obel is not cooperating.
Didn't read the script. The combination by Hagler staggers Obel again, and there's a right hand to the top of the head, and Obel once more is staggered, but comes back with a left hand of his own.
Obel,
Another left hand.
he's fighting sheerly on determination and confidence, and it's unbelievable.
Hagler leans on his man, throws nothing but combinations. Almost all his punches are connecting, and Obel remains standing.
I'll be surprised if Obel comes out for the next round. Look at his legs, they're wobbling.
Well, he's going to go out on his shield when and if he goes out.
So credit to Fully Obel. Certainly got to give credit to champion Marvin Hagler, too. He's really taken the fight to Fully Obel and has really hit him with everything except the chair that he's sitting on right now. But you got to credit the challenge.
Oh, I give him a lot of credit. You know something, I was thinking about being a middleweight. I changed my mind.
Now, Fully Obel actually looking at him in his corner in this round. He looks to be even a little bit more fit than he was in the last round. He was really a beaten fighter in the last round. He didn't really get tagged as bad in the 7th round as he did in the 6th round, or for that matter in the 5th round.
There's a doctor in the corner who is examining his eyes. Obel looked at him and seemed clear-eyed.
Well, the interesting thing is here, too, in the state of Massachusetts, the doctor cannot stop the fight. He can only advise the referee, Octavio Medan, to stop the fight. Round 8 upcoming now, and Fulgencio Obel still on his feet. Stalks his man once more. Obel comes back with a combination. Misses, though. And 3-4 quick punches and a right hand to the top of the head. Staggers Obel over into the ropes. Octavio Medan says, that's all. That's enough. Marvin Hagler is still the champion of the world. And the crowd here loves it, and they are very appreciative of a very fine effort by the challenger from Venezuela, Fulgencio Obelmejias. He took everything that Marvin Hagler could dish out, Ray.
I'm quite impressed with Obel, but he has nothing to feel sorry about. He fought a great champion.
He definitely did. Marvin Hagler really is the eternal professional, in my opinion, at least. He doesn't waste any punches. I think we made mention of the fact that 70-75% of his punches landed tonight.
He put on a dynamite display of punches.
And everybody rushing into the ring. Mrs. Fulgencio Obelmejias rushes over to her husband, and Bertha Hagler, formerly Bertha Washington, lifelong friend of the champion, rushes in to greet her husband. Marvin Hagler retains the championship of the world, both the WBA and the WBC. It was a pretty good fight all around. Just in looking at it just from the pure sport itself, you have to say this is a pretty good fight.
It was a dynamite fight from round 1 up until the end.
Well, Fulgencio Obel just gave it everything, and as we mentioned earlier, there was great consternation here, not only in the city of Boston, but in fact in the boxing community in general, that this was a guy who really didn't belong in the same ring with Marvin Hagler. He was a guy that even though he was undefeated, and even though he had 28 knockouts, that he really didn't belong in with the champion, Marvin Hagler. He proved tonight that he definitely not only belonged, he gave Marvin Hagler everything he wanted and a little bit more. Marvin Hagler, though, still the champion. And let's go now up to Larry Merchant, who is with the champion, Marvin Hagler.
All right, I'm with Marvin Hagler and a few hundred other people. Marvin, I guess he's a little tougher than you thought.
He was a lot tougher than I thought. I had to weigh him down. I realized I was in good shape, and I know he trained real hard for this fight. But I told him, he's never met anybody like Marvin Hagler. In order for me to go, he's going to have to hit me with that ring post. I'm showing the world that I should have been champion a long time ago. And I feel very good. I got the best trainer and manager in the world.
Did he ever hurt you?
No, I was never hurt. I just had to get things together. Don't go with too much power. Stay loose. And I figure I would get him with speed.
Early on, you seemed to be measuring him for 2 or 3 rounds. You had a little bit of a problem reaching him because he was so tall.
So tall, working my way in. Didn't want to run into anything on the way in. We worked very hard. I'd like to thank all the people down in my training camp in Provincetown. And also, I like to say that this day here is a good win, and I want to give this win here to the people from United Cerebral Palsy. I've been working for United Cerebral Palsy for 4 or 5 years, and I just missed this year, but I'm hoping everybody give.
You seem like a man on a mission as a fighter. Is that because you had to wait so long to get this and that you really have a chance to value it?
They only made me meaner. The longer they kept me away, I should have been there about 3 years ago. I wanted to show the world that I belong there. Now I earned this right here. And we brought it right back here to Boston, and this is where it belongs, right here. And I'm not planning on giving this away until I'm ready.
Who is your next challenger?
Right now, we got a lot of people in mind, but you know, right now they come out of the woodworks. Before, we couldn't find them.
Are you going to fight Vito Antuofermo again?
I have something there with Antuofermo. I beat him there. He got a gift that night. And if the money's right, we want him.
What about Ray Leonard? He's been talking about becoming a middleweight.
Well, he knows maybe that way I can make some serious money down there. He knows. I figured that I'm the best in the world in my division. This is what I've been trying to prove for so long, and I've done it.
Thank you very much. Now back to ringside.
Okay, we're going to have an opportunity to look at both the knockdown earlier and, of course, how the fight ended. Let's take a look now at the knockdown, Ray. This was earlier in the fight, and Marvin Hagler, as we mentioned, just came up with a tremendous left hook right there.
Marvin Hagler is what you call a technician, and I consider very few fighters technicians because he puts his punches together, and he put Obel down with a beautiful left hook.
Now this is the end of the fight, so why don't you talk us through this? What do you see here?
Well, as you see it now, Hagler is very, very aggressive. He's very confident. He knows exactly what he wants to do, and he sees that Obel is not aggressive anymore. He's backing away, and that shows sign of fatigue and hurt. And Hagler's beginning to throw his body shots, put his punches together, and here it's just a matter of time before the fight is stopped.
Well, Marvin Hagler really, he mentioned the fact that he felt Fulgencio Obel, in order to win the fight, would have to hit him with everything, including the ring post. I think Marvin Hagler did hit him with the ring post, and he still didn't go down.
Well, as we see it here, more action. He hit with more than ring post, and he was determined to retain his title, and Marvin Hagler did just that.
Marvin Hagler was saying earlier that winning a fight like this just makes him that much meaner, and I think if descriptions or anything in the way of talking about a fighter or creating a legend, I think maybe Red Smith, the famed New York Times columnist and a guy who's written an awful lot about boxing, maybe more words than anybody else, said about Marvin Hagler, he said, with his shaven head and Mephistophelian whiskers, he looks like the embodiment of evil. Well, there, folks, is the embodiment of evil, if that's true. Talking right now to some Venezuelan television folks, Fulgencio Obel was really supported here today. One other comment, in fact, about the shaved head of Marvin Hagler, and even a couple of his cornermen had shaved heads. I don't know if you noticed that. He said that he did that because of the success of Hurricane Carter and Jack Johnson, and there were a couple of pretty good champions in and of themselves. We're going to have an opportunity to go back up into the ring now to Larry Merchant, and let's do that right now with Vito Antuofermo, who probably gave Marvin Hagler the toughest fight of his career.
I'm right down over here. Vito, your thoughts on the fight? Excuse me? What were your thoughts on the fight?
Yeah, well, I figured the fight was going to wind up like this, but I gave Fulgencio Obel more chance, at least to go 15 rounds with him. But what I see, the punch must have hit him on the neck, must have hit some nervous on the neck, and that's what got him out of there.
So you thought actually that Fulgencio would give him a really tough fight, not that he was some pushover, some unknown fellow from South America.
No, I've seen Fulgencio Obel before, and I've seen it. He's a very good fighter, and not only because he was a good fighter, that's because he had his height. The guy was a 6'2", and I figured maybe the height would give Hagler a little trouble.
Do you have a contract for a return match with Hagler?
Well, I have no contract, but the promoter promised me by May he will be able to do something with me and Hagler.
Thank you very much, Vito. Now back to you, Ray and Barry.
Thank you very much, Larry Merchant and Vito Antuofermo. You had a chance to see Marvin Hagler fight Vito Antuofermo, although I'm sure, Ray, your mind wasn't so much on that fight because you had a rather important fight that same night against Alfredo Benitez. But what did you think of that fight? That was probably the toughest fight that Marvin Hagler has ever had. It wound up as a draw, the first draw in a championship fight since 1973, and with that, Antuofermo retained his title at that time. Everybody thought that Marvin Hagler won that fight.
Well, it was a very, very close fight, and both guys put up a tremendous fight. And as it was controversial type of a decision. And Hagler proves that he's the champion, and as he exemplified that tonight.
Well, I think Marvin Hagler, and so many words have been said and written about the fact that he was a neglected fighter. Don King took 3 fighters that Hagler had beaten into that ill-fated ABC tournament to decide all the U.S. champions, if you remember, and Marvin really felt neglected about that. He felt neglected because the TV networks just didn't give him a shot. He felt neglected because he was promised title shots, but he wasn't given them, particularly by Rodrigo Valdez, who had the championship for quite a while. So he was a man who really felt he was maligned, and tonight I think he took a giant step back, as you see him now waving to the fans here in Boston, and they are fans that have supported him right from the very beginning. He is an extremely popular fighter here in Boston.
Come on, the important thing about Marvin Hagler is that he took all the anger he had for all those years and he turned it in a positive direction. He didn't let it beat him down. It's easy to get beat down by that, and you can even understand somebody who throws up his arms. But this is a guy with a mission, and he stuck with it, and he should be widely applauded for that.
I completely concur. He is the champion's champion. Right now, let's take a look at highlights of a fight we recorded earlier between Robbie Sims and Richie Harrington.